Welcome to the Play Cousins podcast, a dose of healthy conversations with your Play Cousins. A dose of healthy conversations with your Play Cousins. Welcome to the Play Cousins podcast.
This is the third show. Can y'all believe we made it to number 3? This is the third show.
Yay!
Awesome.
I know. Listen, we doing so this show is about boundaries and consent. I am your favorite cousin, Jazz. Everybody introduce yourselves, and then I'll introduce the guests.
I'll go. I am your play cousin Kills, and I'm on lavender today because people trying it out in these streets.
Get the soothingness. Soothe yourself.
Be soothed because I ain't no killer. Don't push me. And it's almost Gemini season and a Taurus moon. It's a lot for y'all to be getting this energy. Put me in this energy. So, you know.
Well, I think you have a lot to talk about today with boundaries, for real.
Right.
Hey guys, I'm your play cousin T-Dot. Everything's going okay with me over here. Just trying to hold down the fort.
We got a little tea today.
A little T, like bell hooks, all lowercase.
So listen, everybody, we have a special guest on our show. We want to welcome Lynedra. Lynedra, tell everybody hello, and then tell everybody about what you're doing while you on the show, girl.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. I am your play cousin. I'm a new addition to the play cousin family. I'm Lynedra Thrasher, and I'm very happy to be here today. I'm here because I am running for Miss Full-Figured Georgia. So it is a pageant. It's actually a national pageant. So there is a Miss Full-Figured USA, and Georgia is one of the divisions. So it's myself and 13 other contestants that are running, all plus size women from sizes 12 through 26. And the pageant is exciting. I'll say that. A lot of the women that are involved, it's our first time ever being in pageants. So it's like an even playing field. And we're all super excited. So just a little bit about Miss Full-Figured Pageant. They're building self-confidence through women, but they're doing it through competition. So that's pretty much the goal for the pageant. It was founded in 2018. Like I said, the pageant itself has been around for about 30 years, but Georgia has been around since 2018.
Oh, wow.
So this will be the third year for Georgia. So we're still in the lower numbers. So hopefully I can bring that third crown home for Georgia. Actually, I would be the second because I'm going to be in a different category. So there is Full-Figured Plus, which is the category I would be in because I'm a little bit more curvier than the smaller plus size girls. And then you have Full-Figured Exquisite, which is ages 40. It goes by age. So it's 40 and up, regardless of your size. So for Full-Figured Plus, which is the category I would be in, it's only the second year for that queen. So I would be the second Full-Figured Plus if I win. I'm sorry, when I win.
When you win. When you win.
Also, one of my favorite things about Miss Full-Figured Georgia is the motto: size has no barrier on beauty. No barrier on beauty. So yeah, that's a little bit about us, and we also do community service. We're out in the community. We do workshops. We're doing some of everything, and this is we just had our workshop yesterday. It was our third workshop. The first one was virtual. So yeah, we're still learning each other, learning the process, but it's very exciting. My platform for the pageant is mental health and wellness. Okay. So Jasmine is actually wearing my shirt. That was a part of my fundraiser for this month because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So I decided to do a fundraiser to raise awareness for mental health and wellness. And her shirt says mental millionaire. Mental health is wealth. So that's my platform that I'm standing on. And being that mental health is so broad, I wanted to keep it very light because we can go in so many different directions with mental health. But just an overview of where I'm coming from with my platform is having the ability to dig in your bag of tricks or withdraw from your bank account, so to speak, and handle issues. So not to fall by the wayside. If you're having a bad day, how can you go about making yourself better mentally? What can you do? Is it a walk? Is it exercise? Is it going to get a massage? Basically, mental health is wealth, meaning the wealth comes from having a wealth of knowledge on how to get through issues, how to make, your mental state better. I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose you. I can only tell you the little things that I do and things that other people may do. If you have anxiety, cognitive thinking, that may work for some people. Others, it may be a walk. Others, it may be a nap. I don't really know. But again, my platform is basically just saying, is giving you the ability, like stressing that we all need the ability to find a way to cope with mental health.
Yeah. And
I think my lavender.
Exactly. If you need to put your little lavender on your wrist or under your nut, wherever you put it, okay?
Yeah, that's why I wanted you to come on to the show. I thought that you would be a great addition, just because, your platform, what you're standing for, and our culture right now is heavily focused on getting your mental health together, and whatever how it is that you go about getting your mental health together. I think it's just a good idea for you to come on the show and talk about it too, in any way we can. So let's get into the show.
All right.
I really, 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 I've been having some crazy interactions with people, but I still feel like all of these conversations that we're having about boundaries and consent, people still don't really fully understand what that means. And sometimes it's kind of frustrating because you hear some of the weirdest, or some people say the weirdest things, and like blurring the lines of especially consent, but boundaries as well. So I figured, like, we all talked about it. We all decided like this would be a great opportunity to talk about this too. So first, let's go with boundaries. What I really want to talk about is, there's so many things to talk about with boundaries, but let me just start out with the all-around question. Are you all good at setting boundaries? Have you learned how to set boundaries, and are you good at it?
Yeah. The first show, y'all know, I had to tell Jasmine was my first no when she asked for money. So I think I've learned the older I get is necessary. So I think I'm getting better at it. I think it's a work in progress. And then I think I'm learning more with like my family, how to set boundaries. I think it's easier for me to set boundaries with people I don't know.
Absolutely.
That's one thing we're going to get into a little bit later about like setting boundaries as adults now, how you have to set boundaries, particularly with your parents, and how that relationship has changed too. So what about you, T-Dot? Like, how's your boundaries?
I'm a boundaries girl, and I think my boundaries are too stringent sometimes that, mine lack tact kind of thing. Like I have boundaries and then it's like, well, I ain't going.
Right.
I don't want to go. And they're like, well, is that tactful for you to say? So I have boundaries, and I'm kind of trying to let mine go down a little bit because now I may be a little stringent.
Okay. What about Lynedra? How are your boundaries?
So I definitely set boundaries. I do believe in boundaries. I can be a little bit lax sometimes, and I know that every year I say, I'm going to say more. I'm going to say no more this year. That's going to be one of my goals. And I always end up being a little bit of a pushover and doing things because I just don't like to see people maybe struggle or whatever the case is. Sometimes I can make other people's issue my issue way too often. and I see other people say no so easily, I'm just like, oh, and I cringe. I'm like, oh my God, how could you just say no? Like T Dot just said, no, sure, just fly off the tongue so easily. And I'm like, where are my boundaries when it comes to that? Now, I mean, it's so many different boundaries that you can set, but that's one that I struggle with.
Right. I get that. So like overall boundaries is really just like setting, I guess, like an invisible line of what is acceptable versus what is unacceptable behavior. And I think for us to be able to have be in a healthy mental space, we have to set boundaries. I think it's a difficult thing to do, but we have to. So one of the things that we can talk about is, because we live in a social media era, let's talk about setting boundaries with social media. And I mean, like, social media as far as like oversharing. One of my biggest issues with people on social media is crying. And it's not triggered by that. One, I think it's funny. Because I currently think that social media is not the space to cry about things. Because one, I don't think that people care about people enough. You know, I don't care how many followers you have. You don't have that many real friends. Most people just want to know, what the hell are you crying for now? But, you know, I don't think that many people, like, I think your real friends will be like, let me call you and let me talk to you and talk you through whatever's going on so we can get you whatever help you need.
I take it down.
Yeah, I'm really frustrated by people pointing a camera in their face, getting a tear and crying or whatever, whether it's a video or camera. So do you all have any issues with social media as far as like boundaries?
Yeah, I've recently experienced one of those. Somebody basically did their I'm single kind of thing on, like, I'm single and I'm going to put it on my Instagram. And I'm like, hey, need to know you're single. Like, just remove your little photos quietly and just we'll figure it out one day.
That was that coming out party. Don't be hating on nobody.
Right.
My vagina is open for everybody.
Or my inbox is open.
Like that's how people do it these days. But yeah, the crying thing gets me. I think also the death, like when people die and people be under the comment, well, how did they die? It's like they did. It's not gonna change anything. Like, it's annoying when people ask like personal questions, especially when it comes to like people being deceased. Like, it's weird.
And
Or even posting
at
somebody's deceased.
pictures, or posting the actual pictures from the funeral, casket, that sort of thing is definitely oversharing, in my opinion. One of my things that I believe is considered oversharing is when people on social media say that they're leaving social media.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, okay, we'll see you when you come back tomorrow or in a couple of days. I mean, I don't understand that. Like, it's like you have to make a whole announcement about, I'm leaving, like you want somebody to ask you to stay. Right. So yeah, that I believe that's a bit oversharing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm wondering, and I know we all have, but like, what are some things where you feel like somebody has really kind of impeded on your boundaries? For instance, checking you about your weight, or someone saying, well, what's your money looking like? And I know I asked you about money, but I was just playing, unless you don't get that.
Oh my God. Well, I know from at work, I got my space funds in just dedicated to boundaries. The people that like to touch your hair, like,
okay,
if if you buck, because you done violated my boundary, you didn't ask. Like, that is a big one for me. The other thing is like people assuming because like you might live a certain way or they figure you have certain financial means. They're like, oh, it's just $20. It's not gonna hurt you. And it'd be like, no, you giving to people that have child labor. I don't want to give to that. And they're like, it's just $20. I don't believe in it. It's like you trying to tell me how to spend my money.
Right.
Or beliefs, or what I should give to.
Right. T Dot or Lynedra, what are some things that people have done to kind of like push your boundaries? Like, what have they? Did you have to check them as well? Like, what y'all got a story or something?
I would say just sometimes people just trying to generally be in your business, and you may not want to share. You know, like I went through a breakup recently, and I didn't talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it,
Right.
but people wanted me to talk about it, but I didn't want to talk about it, so I didn't.
Right.
All you need to know is I'm no longer with this person, and that's it. I don't have to overshare. I don't have to give details.
Right.
When I want to and to whom I would like to share, I will. So, yeah.
That's real.
That's very real. I think for me it's when you gonna get married.
Oh.
You gonna have kids, and it's like
millennial.
We live in the house together, and that is what we do. And this is our boundary. We invite you to the courthouse. Maybe you can be invited, but until then, it's my boundary.
And your uterus.
And my uterus.
Bruh, your uterus, for real. Yo, uterus, paycheck, your time, your mental anguish, like, it's a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Babies off in the stork. And it's like, oh, yeah, you got a baby. That's it.
I think another one now that we were talking about was the whole vaccination thing. And like everybody, the people who are against it, the people who are for it. And it's like always something to be combative about, where people feel like, oh, you should do it or you shouldn't. And people like really ODing on whether someone has gotten it or not. So I think we've been seeing that a lot. That's definitely pushing those boundaries. But the question too is, when is it okay to push back or overstep those boundaries? Like, is it okay when you see someone getting towed up on the streets, or are you afraid maybe something may happen to you because you may jump into a fight and try to protect somebody? Is it okay when you see children getting abused? Like, what would you all say is okay to push back on those boundaries? Or would you even call that pushing back on boundaries, or it's just what you should do?
I just feel like you should do the right thing. In general, regardless of the situation, if it's a child being molested or if it's of a domestic violence incident, do your part just as an upstanding citizen.
Right.
You don't have to necessarily jump in, call 911 or whatever it is that you need to do. Just do your part. If it's a child being molested, you need to let somebody know. Don't just turn the other cheek and ignore the situation, because our society is all about sipping your tea, drinking your water, minding your business, growing your edges, and all that stuff. But guess what? That's not real life. And you have to empathize, and you have to put yourself in situations and think, if that was me or my sister or my mother or my dad, whomever, what would I want somebody to do?
Agreed. I think one thing we talked about over the weekend is like, if you have a coworker with a foul smell, like I struggle with. I mean, I don't work at HR, so I feel like I ain't got to tell nobody nothing. But like, we were talking about how that would be. In that case, you have to something. You have to be like, not you, but maybe HR or whoever. And I remember, Danny, you and I had talked about this before. And would you want to give an example of what has to be done in most companies?
I would go to a supervisor if I'm not the supervisor. I'm just, like you said, you're just an employee and it's above your pay grade. Then you may want to go to your supervisor or manager and speak with them, and then they would go to HR, because it's certain things that are in the handbooks. And if you cook fish in the microwave at some companies and you stink the office up, you can be written up for something like that. So it just depends, on the company. But I mean, if I were musty, I would want somebody to tell me, especially if, but they always say you smell yourself first, but you never know. People may have a health issue or anything going on.
Right.
Yeah. So
I told Jazz at work one time, we had an incident. It was a habitual flagrant smell. And so one of the ladies on the team like went to CVS and bought like deodorant, soap and stuff and put it in a birthday bag and left it on the desk and was like, happy birthday. But it wasn't the person's birthday, but she just was like, oh, I thought it was your birthday. And was like, no, you can keep the gift.
Oh, wow.
You know,
Yeah.
yes, you could do it.
That's a
So
very.
how did she handle that? What was the
They
feedback?
took the bag. They took the bag now. It was some nice
Did they take the hint
stuff
stuff?
in there. Stuff. It was some body sprays in there. It was
She
deodorant.
bought the good stuff too.
She bought good stuff. Yeah.
Did the odor improve later on?
Yeah, it did. I mean, well, it did, but it was some extra steps in there too. About the odor.
Okay.
It was kind of like a written up thing too. It was reported as well.
Oh,
From
Wow.
like I'm in the work where we go to client site, so you can't be going to the client site and you're like the face of our business doing that.
right.
Right.
I think another thing that we were talking about too, I kind of want to go back a little bit, is like having boundaries with parents now, because of course, as you grow up, your relationship with your parents change. Of course, a lot of us growing up Black is, I'm not one of your little friends. But then like now you're a grown woman or a grown man, and you like, but you are my little friend. Like
Right.
I'm an old daddy or whatever. So I think a lot of times that relationship shifts, and then you have to have some difficult conversations with your
Mm-hmm.
and then for some people who grew up with abusive parents, I think it's like challenging their parents on how they disrupted their childhood and difficult for them, and now they have to either go to therapy or they've had some issues with intimacy or relationships with people because of the relationship they have with their parents. Have you all had to have and set boundaries with your parents as adults? You want to give your testimony?
That is actually going to be a show, probably a 3-part show.
Wow.
You know,
A few takeaways from how you had to get your mama together.
yeah, my mama and my grandma. I already told y'all that one time they called me the B word. It wasn't nice, and I was grown. But difficult conversations. I think it starts with a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to pick on Black mothers, but like Black mothers be like, oh my God, I like popped you out and did all this and I died for you 5 times on that table. And it's like a guilt trip when you're like, girl, but you did something wrong. Or like you came in my house and you went through my mail. Like, it's like, that's a federal offense and people go to jail for that. Like,
Right.
or you be like, you're the queen in your house, but you're the princess in my house because I'm the queen. I run stuff over here. But I feel like it starts with a conversation. And I think the sooner you do it in your adulthood is better, because when you get into adulthood and you let things slide, the worse the behavior comes.
Agreed. Yeah. I think it's better to nip it in the bud as soon as you can and let your parents know, like, I'm an adult now. And while I do love you and I will always respect you, now you have to shift the way you view me, because you told me as long as I was in your house, I had to live by your rules, but I'm in my house. So I have to by my rules.
Right.
How about T-Dot or Lynedra?
It's funny to Nicole's point where she said, the parents are always saying everything that they did for you. I did a TikTok recently, and it pretty much was saying, I put clothes on your back, food on your table, a roof over your head, and then it breaks out into, well, ain't that what you supposed to do? You had me. I didn't ask to be here. Like, that's pretty much, and I tell my mom that all the time. I'm like, you brought me into this world where I have student loans, car note, rent, all this fun stuff that I now have to do because you decided, you wanted a child. So it's funny, and of course they instill things in us to teach us how to grow up in this world and be successful and go to school and, be great human beings. But they never stop reminding us of, to Nicole's point, of everything that, it took.
Oh my God. My mama said I was like, I'm not an NBA baller and I did not marry no rich person. She was like, she wanted me to buy her house, and not even like a economical house, like $500,000 house, pool, tennis court. I mean, like, what she was like, this is what I deserve. Ma'am.
So I'm sorry. So when she said deserve for
all her hard work. And then she loves to say, because we do have people that are a certain caliber economically, and so they've done that for their parents, but most of them have like $1 million salaries. And it's like, ma'am, I'm a fraction of that. I could get you a senior citizens apartment.
Not the senior living.
What? In our house? Like, ma'am, come on.
Senior living be nice though.
Open in there. I take her on vacations. Like, she gets benefits and perks, but like parents don't be realistic. And I'd be like, this the same lady to be like $50 for FUBU jeans, and then you want to earn $300 like glasses. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy how the parents and parents have happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
I know for me, like I said earlier, my boundaries are hard. So I drew some extra hard boundaries on my mom and didn't talk to her for like months. Like, I'm not talking to you. Go about your business. Then, of course, probably similar to some of y'all, it was a guilt trip and coming back. Like, oh no, you didn't want to. What was that? Oh, I didn't want to go to her class reunion breakfast, but it was also during my class reunion time. And I wasn't there 50 years ago when you graduated. Classmates' children were, but I wasn't. So I didn't want to go. So I just drew a hard line in the sand. And now, honestly, it's like, maybe I should have gone because my mama ain't here no more. So figure out how hard your boundary going to be.
Right.
That is true. Yeah.
Still didn't want to go with the old people, though. I ain't want to.
Yeah.
In romantic relationships, how soon do you think is a good time to build or to start forming those boundaries?
Day one. Day one.
Don't show up as somebody different and then flip the script.
Yeah.
I need you to. I know you need to know my boundaries. I need to know your boundaries, because one of us flip the script, we ain't gonna be.
Yeah, and you're more likely to be representatives. So
I was just about to go there.
But tell the representative to send the message, okay? It doesn't matter who the message comes from. If whoever you show up as, whenever you turn into the real you, remember what I said on day one. Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
We gonna talk about that on the next episode.
Things about like relationships is when people are not truthful from the beginning about who they are, it's hard to set those, like, I mean, of course you set boundaries, but then you're setting them for somebody who ain't that person. So then if you choose to stay with that lying ass, then you have to set more boundaries or whatever. And it's a whole task after that. Do you all have any questions or anything about like boundaries? Like, give me some questions about boundaries.
Set questions?
Mm-hmm.
For the people?
Yeah, for the people.
You gotta really be in tune with your likes and dislikes and what you're willing to put up with. You know how a lot of people be like, I ain't gonna put up with this, and then
they do.
You 5 months in with this Negro and you doing everything you said you was not gonna do. I think that you gotta stay convicted in what your boundaries are, like, and you shouldn't change them up, because usually when you change them up the same way, you're that's the sword you're gonna die on, basically.
True.
That's how usually it happens.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Well, we can shift gears a little bit to talk about consent. Y'all, this is really troubling for me. Okay. I gotta be honest. Okay, so because words mean things, as Chris says, let's give definitions. So consent is agreement and permission to do something or for something to happen. However, there's a caveat that exists under the conditions of mental disorder, underage individuals or adults with low mental age that may engage in sex, but however, it is not legally determined to be consent because of those factors. Y'all. Sometimes I'll be like, I don't even know where to start because to me, it seems so like, okay, if we don't agree to that, it ain't happening. You know, every step of the way, we need to make an agreement so that we can both be on the same level of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a conversation and this was about like 3 weeks ago. I was having a conversation with this young lady that I'm building a friendship with. This almost caused me to tell her she can go straight to whatever because I was so her reaction. But we were talking about Bill Cosby, and she was like, "They need to let that man go." And then we proceeded to have a whole conversation about why he shouldn't be. And we were literally on the phone back and forth. And I was so frustrated that a woman, like her reasoning for it was that happened a long time ago. That was one reason. As if like trauma has an expiration date or whatever. Her second thing that she said was they knew what they were going up there for. And my whole thing is consent exists where even if you knew you were going up to someone's room, and we're gonna leave like being drugged out of this, but even if you knew you agreed with someone, let's say, let me set the scene. You're in a bar and you're gonna pick somebody up and take them home, or they pick you up and they say come back to my place. You can agree at that spot at the bar that yeah, I'm gonna go home with you and we're gonna do what we do. You can drive to their house, park in the parking space. You can walk up to their home. You can go in the door. Y'all can take off y'all clothes. You can start kissing. You can start whatever movements that involve foreplay, sex, or whatever. And someone can literally be in you and you say stop, or you can be in someone and they can say stop. Everything has to stop. Or even before you get to that point, someone can be this close to entering you or you entering someone. And when someone says stop, that means stop because you are not consenting to that action. Why people do not understand that, I do not know. Why the onus needs to be on the victim.
Victim blaming.
Don't get it. So it's when I tell you I was on the phone and this woman is in her 40s. And I was really like, you are a grown woman with a child. Is this what you're teaching your son? Because if you are, he may end up in some issues. Because with your understanding about consent, I can only imagine what his young mental state would be surrounding consent as well. Let's get into this conversation about consent because some people just still don't seem to understand what that means. Can y'all give it to the people?
I just feel like it goes back to the basics of doing the right thing. And I feel like people want to, instead of looking at the facts, instead of looking at, like you said, let's take the drugging even out of it. At the end of the day, at the core, it's about doing what's right. And if you do what's right, just like I'm not going to say in a courtroom, but they call themselves applying the law to whatever the action is, right? If you're doing what's right just from us, as a citizen, as an individual, then you wouldn't have half of the issues that we have now. So, like you said, with consent, it would be if that person says no, then you would stop, and that would be it. It would be dead. It wouldn't be an issue. It wouldn't be a lawsuit. It wouldn't be all these different, allegations against Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, whomever. But because people don't do the right thing and they think they won't get caught, then we end up with all these issues.
Yeah. I think also people forget consent is transactional and it's a gatekeeper at each, kind of like what you were saying, Jasmine, like it's a gatekeeper at each level.
Yeah,
so literally, I could say, I think also it kind of goes to like, if you did it once and then they be like expecting it again, and you like, no, that was just a one-time thing. I wanted to try it. I ain't like it. And then they want you to do it again. It's kind of like, no, I did it that one time. That was it. I consented to that one time. That it's not like a carryover. It's like one that, in school you get a 0 or 100. Like it's like it's one or the other. It's not both. It's not a culmination of things. And I think me and you were kind of going over, even when like people are married and people like, I don't understand how people be like, 'cause they was married and they got raped. And I'm like, they said no to their husband. You can say no. Like,
it doesn't matter. It's back to the basics.
Right.
Yeah.
Or to your wife.
Or to your wife.
Visiting was a thing.
Right. And still how people can say, like, you don't own people, even though white people do it, but you don't own people, and you cannot, just because you are legally tied to someone in this legally binding contract does not mean you have ownership of their body. They still reserve the right to say, not tonight, I don't want to do that, or whatever. Or even if they have some type of sex, they still have the right to say, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah, or whatever the case is. And it's just,
even drinking, like spiking people drinks. Like people be like, I want you to loosen up. So you put something in somebody's drink or food to alter who they are. And I'm like, no, that's violating and infringing in somebody's rights.
It is. And I think like, I guess I still get frustrated because I'm like, when I hear people saying we need to have more conversations about this, I'm like, do we? Or do we just need to start locking people up who violate? And that needs to be the conversation. Because it's so difficult for people to understand. Like, for instance, I don't know if I should get into my business.
Get into it.
Right.
Let me record this.
Well, I will try to keep it like PG-13. Anyway, I was entertaining someone. And this person, although I knew that they were drunk from the start, before I invited this person back to my house, I knew that they were drunk, but when they came over to my house, they were really trying to put on the moves. And I was like, yeah, no, because I don't do that. And I mean, I didn't tell this, like the person was literally out of the clothes. And I was like, yeah, so, okay, I'm going to take you home because I don't want this situation to go any further. And so a few days later, I was having a conversation. This person was like, did I do that? And I was like, that's exactly why I don't mess with people who are inebriated. Because what you're not going to do is be like, I don't remember any of that happening. And no, I want you to know what happened. And for me, I think consent also means discipline.
Absolutely.
You don't want to violate another human. I don't care like what the situation is. Ain't nothing ever worth somebody later on saying, I don't remember what we did and I don't think I wanted that to happen. I don't ever like that and never will, because she knows.
And that's real though, and I've actually been in a situation where I've seen stuff like a girl be drunk and a dude hand be all up a girl like skirt or down her shirt. And I'd be like, bruh, that is not cool. Like literally, but then it'd be like 5, 6 other men being like, oh, well, she was flirting with him earlier. And I'm like, that is really like literally gateway rape. And I think that the conversation needs to be more about calling it out, policing it, and like literally acknowledging that this is something wrong. Like if you were so drunk and a girl robbed you, it'll be way more conversations about that. Because guys would be like, oh, that's so wrong. You're taking advantage of somebody, versus they don't correlate like physically assaulting somebody sexually or molesting somebody is the problem.
Because they don't think it's molesting or assault. So we have to also think about that too. They're like, we're just being touchy-feely. They don't have that mindset that it's even bad.
And who are you to touch it though? And like why? Because it's there. You feel like you can put your hands on it. That I've never understood that concept of because a woman has a nice behind and she walks by and it may be
That you can
halfway out.
touch.
Why do you feel like it's okay for you to touch it? You know,
Right.
I feel like it goes back to morals as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when you really listen to people and what they say out of their mouths, and you know, it shows you their thought process about things. And it's funny how people interpret things. Like we all interpret things differently, or but again, it goes back to facts. Like don't put your own sauce in there and then try to spin, you know, the scenario. Like let's talk about facts. They said no. It doesn't matter if earlier they said yes or earlier they were kissing at the bar. In that moment, when it happened, what was the answer?
Right.
You know, so let's forget everything else. And that's what people do. Well, you know, she was a tease or whatever. That does not matter. That may be the case, or you may feel that way. But let's talk about the latter part. Like what at the end, what was what. So
and I think
that sounds like a Lifetime movie. That little girl who got that train ran on her, the cheerleader girl, and she was like, they sodomized her, and they was like, she was a hoe, but they like it was like she could have been a hoe. 365 on that 366th day, she decided not to be a hoe, and she said no.
exactly.
No means no.
Means no, and people don't understand that. Do y'all remember that video? I don't know, maybe it was like 3 years ago. And I think it was inside the club opera where that girl.
Oh yeah, that girl.
The young lady said that we saw video.
right.
That whole thing was so like you had everybody chiming in about like actually what happened, and people were like, "Why are you recording your sexual assault?" And she was saying that she was drunk, and the dude was like, "I didn't think she was drunk." And then even her boyfriend chimed in and was like, "She a hoe," and then he retracted that statement and was like, It was so many moving parts in that, but
It sure was. And then you heard nothing else about it.
Move, and that's what I say. Drugs are real. Like you can literally be screaming for help, but your mouth ain't moving. Like you literally in your mind have told yourself you're screaming for help. That's what was wrong with her. Whatever the drugs he gave her, she couldn't like her
She
mouth.
was also in a nightclub with loud music. Opera is really loud.
Yeah, opera is loud.
Very loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And spacious.
Exactly.
I think a lot of times, I mean, as we all know, like sexual assault isn't taken seriously because it predominantly happens to women. And I think in general, people just hate women or don't like women or whatever, or don't take women seriously or think that women belong to the world and men. So it's like, oh girl, whatever. Like, oh, you got assaulted, somebody else did too. I think it's 1 in 3 women will be sexually assaulted. I think it is 1 in 6 men. And those are actually the men that actually somebody that it happened to them. So I just think a lot of times when people side with men who tend to be the violators, it's because they just don't really value women and don't value what, like, you should have known better. You shouldn't have dressed that way. You shouldn't have did that. Like, I hope my sister doesn't mind me telling this. I don't think she will. But like my sister was first assaulted at, I think she was 9 years old, my 2 boys. And I don't want to say assault as in like they raped her or anything. They didn't, but they tried to touch her. You know, like as kids develop, whatever. These 2 boys took it, and they were her same age. They took it to say that they could touch on her. When I tell you my sister grabbed a jump rope and beat them like a slave master, like she really whooped them, because even at that age, my older sister has always been like, absolutely not. But then there was another time when she was living in DC, when she was in the club with my little sister too. And this guy, and anybody knows my sister is like, she's like 5'5". This guy like grabbed her behind. She proceeded to jack him up. And where bouncer was standing right there, but she told him, "Don't you ever put your hands on me." And it's so messed up. And I think she said one of her friends, maybe I'm mixing up 2 different stories, but one of her friends was with her. And the girl was like, "Why would you do that? Like, why would you piss him off? Why would you make him upset? He could have did something to us." And my sister was like, how you getting on me because I'm defending myself? And she was like, "Girl, it's been a problem. Like, it wasn't that bad," or whatever the girl was trying to say to her. And I think like sometimes when other women echo, like it's nothing wrong. Just be okay with it. It kind of tells the story to men, like it's okay. Like you can still continue to violate. And when women stand up, like yes, there is a risk of women, because we've seen that too, women being assaulted because they speak up for themselves. But if we don't speak up for ourselves, that behavior will continue.
Right. It doesn't even matter who you are, though.
Right.
It don't matter who you are or what you got. Because look at Muslim countries. They sodomize and rape women, and they fully cover head to toe.
So modesty has nothing to do with it.
No.
It's men. Like it's the other M word. Like stop the rapists. Stop the ones that are violating people, and then we'll solve the problem. Doesn't matter what you're wearing. Doesn't matter what you have on. Like you said, women in hijabs and covered to all the way to their toes get assaulted all the time. And so do women wearing bikinis.
Yeah. It's patriarchy in itself. You know, some men are, you know, great upstanding men and will help you jack somebody up. But when you think that you are just the gift to the world and you can do anything, that's the problem.
Exactly.
You can't touch people because you just want to in your mind. Like, oh, she got a nice behind, I'ma just grab her. You can't do that just because you're.
And nowadays, people don't help you anymore. So, to your point of getting jacked up, people are pulling out their cell phones and recording. Nobody is willing to really help. That's like second nature to call somebody for help or call the police. Yeah. First, let me get this on video and upload it to ATL Scoop or Scoop ATL. And then let me get it on my live, on my story. And then also, hold on, let me put it on my profile real quick.
Yeah.
And then send it to some people via DM.
Right.
Okay, now let's call the police.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a lack of community. Like we don't have, I mean, for lack of better, in the Black community, it used to be a whole community. Like I get in trouble, killed his mama, tore my behind up before my mama even reached me. Like it was, I mean, we were together. Like some things that happened, I know like Shard Brooks, he was in the car at the Wendy's and somebody, if it was a community still, somebody probably could have been like, yo,
chill.
You okay?
Yeah.
Take you, whatever. But we're so afraid. And like you said, Lynedra, if we so on our phones and about to upload the ATL Scoop, that is just so sad that we don't have a community to take care of each other.
Yeah.
And I also think that we perpetuate the bad behavior early on too. Because if you really look at it, when we were young, people be like, "Oh, that boy like you because he hit on you. That's not cute."
Yeah,
that actually was not cute.
Right.
It really wasn't. And they learned that from their parents too, that told them that it was all right to behave that way. But that's why I'm glad like we're having conversations now to let people know, and particularly kids. So hopefully we won't have another generation of children growing up thinking it's okay to violate other humans in that way just because you see something you like.
Yeah.
Hope that people are having, well, some people, obviously not everybody because of that conversation I have with that woman, but like I would hope that a lot of people would make better decisions in the way that they are raising their children again, so we don't have another generation of young men and young women who think that it's okay to just do whatever they want with people because they see something that they like. That's not a good enough excuse for you to find your ass in jail. So yeah, I think that we have to continue these conversations. What else do you guys have to say about consent?
I was gonna say shouts out to the teachers though, because I think that they're understanding it a little more, because even from my little cousins are like 16, 17.
Okay.
So when they were in elementary school, I remember when my little cousin was like, yeah, kangaroo pouch. And it was just like like my cupcake was my butt and like this different names. But now my niece, who's 9, when they start teaching body parts to them, it was like her vagina, penis, like it was correct labeling, and they understood that people shouldn't touch you there, because I felt like the code words were confusing people, as well as people will brush them off. So if a child is like reporting assault, they're gonna be like, oh, she touched my cupcake, and somebody be like, oh, okay. Like if you don't know the nomenclature for that of a 5-year-old, then you won't know. And I think that it's getting a little better from the school system kind of taking responsibility, and that at least kind of like going back to those tools to have you help navigate through situations.
Agreed. What do you think, Twanda or T-Dot?
I think for me it's like I was remembering like my mom made a point to be like, don't allow anybody to touch you, period. Like if you don't feel uncomfortable, you need to tell me, tell your dad, tell the teacher, tell a grown up, like period. I distinctly remember her saying that.
Yeah.
I don't think I used any like cupcake like language either. I don't think I learned that, but just rethinking of like how I was socialized as a kid, that not to allow people like to touch you inappropriately. And I know for me, I'm like, don't touch me already, like don't. So maybe just starting at home too, not even just waiting until you get to school to teach the children to take care of themselves in that way.
Yeah, agree. What do you think about your information? I'm not information, but what are your thoughts on consent, Danny?
Well, going back to what Tawana was saying about not touching people, I was actually molested as a child. I was about 4 or 5, and I'm just glad that it did not affect my life. Well, maybe it did, but it didn't affect me in a way mentally where I wasn't able to bounce back, or let's say I had 9 or 10 kids. That didn't happen, because I do have a friend who also, it happened to her. It happened to us at the same time. And it really affected her life, and as kids, what consent?
Right.
We can say no, but what are we doing? We don't even know what's going on, so it's like she had several children, from what I know, she doesn't have like a healthy relationship with men or anything like that. So, it's like taken away from you if you're not able to tell somebody no, or if they don't even, we're talking about consent, you can say no and they still are going to do what they want to do. So, but for us, there was no consent. There was no option, but yeah. So, I mean, I feel like with consent, everybody should follow it. Like I said, I gave my answer in the beginning. It's simple. It's back to the basics. It's black and white. It's simple.
Agreed. Sounds good. Well, here's the next segment where we talk about prescriptions. So with all the information that we've had about boundaries and consent, Kilby, give us your prescription for this week.
I think I'm going to go back to the no.
Yeah.
And just tell people no. Actually, rewind based on my experience I had today. If you don't like something, don't allow someone, I don't care what it is, to say, no, you have to deal with it, or you're going to deal with it. You don't have to deal with it. So whatever mustard seed of faith, whatever encouragement you need to tell that person to go kick rocks, or whatever read you need to practice in your head, you do not have to live with anything if you do not like it. And so practice in the mirror reading somebody down when they say that to you. That is what, have it ready in your Rolodex of reads. Like, no, I'm not going to deal with it. And you could go yourself.
There you go.
I'm getting Easter Ray vibes in my head. Hear people out and rapping.
Lynedra, give us your prescription for this week.
So my prescription is an 800 milligram of a dose of your own medicine.
Okay.
Right. So what I mean by that is pull a you on you. Like how, it's all for me. I'm big on empathy and how you treat people, and emotional intelligence and how people perceive you. and how you make people feel. So, I challenge people to take an 800 milligram of your worst trait and you take it yourself. And how does that make other people feel? Like if you're stubborn, and you're stubborn towards somebody who's really nice to you or somebody who really cares about you, like swallow that stubborn pill and you tell me how that work on you. So that's my prescription for the people, for the cousins.
What T-Dot, what's your prescription for this week?
I'm gonna go with still same main vein of breaking down some of the boundaries that I don't need. Like I shouldn't be this hard with these boundaries, and I just need to break it down and allow me, even for like myself. I think I put up boundaries just for me to cope and survive, and I don't really need them. So like, let me enjoy myself and do what I want or do what I enjoy, and not let these boundaries that I put in place stop me from doing that. So
I like that. I like it. So my prescription for the week is pretty simple as it pertains to clarity and boundaries. I'm sorry, as it contains to consent and boundaries, it will be clarity at every step that you take. Just being clear. This is what I want. This is what I don't want of yourself, your partners, whatever, friendships, whatever. Clarity, y'all. That's what I prescribe. So listen, we're moving left and right along to the next segment. Okay, are y'all ready? Oh, this is a segment that is akin to the no good festivities and shenanigans exhibited by you and your cousins and them at the family function whilst indulging in Earth's most natural treasures, if you will. Y'all already know what that is when you go to the car with your cousins. Let's get the video.
I'm ready.
Oh, well. Social. They came for her.
That's my favorite girl.
Okay, Portia. I know her too. Portia Williams. Boy, oh boy. Okay, so for those who don't know where are you living in the woods? If you don't, with no Wi-Fi. If you didn't hear about this story, Portia Williams and her fiance Simon, that is divorcing his wife Fallon, who everybody claimed was a friend of Portia. So Portia came out and said we were not friends, and there were reports that Simon and her baby daddy were actually the friends, but they were also shown on camera with Simon lighting up his cigar. So if they don't have a problem with it, I'm trying to figure out why everybody else
right.
Like I don't get it. What do y'all have to say about it?
Like you said, how much more mad can I be if Dennis isn't upset?
Dennis is living his best life.
Dennis been living his life.
How mad can I be?
right. I think I'm with y'all. I am with y'all, definitely. But based on what the clip said, the last line of the song that we listened to was left me confused. If they weren't left confused, then I'm not confused.
Exactly.
Y'all left confused apparently. So
what is Simon's net worth? 50? Is it 57?
40 million.
40 million.
And that's just what we know about. You know they
right. Because he is Nigerian.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, my thing this so let's dig into it a little bit deeper. So we know that Dennis and Portia dated, had a baby, but like they've been broken up for some time now. So all we know from the show is Dennis and Portia, and then it's like this other guy comes in who was also on the show with another woman,
right?
But the details is they're divorcing. So I mean, if they're divorcing and Portia says she's not a friend, did they portray? I think they portrayed her as Kenya's friend on the show.
Well, we knew Kenya before in real life,
right?
Portia and her knew each other through Dennis and Simon.
Okay.
Because they are real friends. So I was like, the real suspect is Simon, because that's your homeboy, baby mama. But then I was looking at someone's comment and they was like, well, you really can't fault Simon because this is a rich man's sport. And they basically like Simon and Dennis are rich, so they get a pass because this is what rich men do. They pass women along.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like
right. That's the problem. But everybody going
you have to want to be like Portia. We all know Portia is a very strong-headed, very vocal person than she was the very first season when she was with Cordell. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the real Portia is here. We know we've gotten the real Portia ever since the second season thereafter.
Right.
So my thing is, if Portia don't want to date Simon, I don't think that she would. And I also feel like, you know, everybody's ex is somebody's next. So it just happened to be somebody on the show. It just happened to be Portia.
Okay.
I don't know the details of what happened. Again, if they not mad, I'm not mad. If they like it, I love it. They got all the money. What can I say? They millionaires.
If it's your friend, like I ain't never gonna date nobody Twanda ever dated. Right. I don't care if they was divorced or not. Like if it's your friend, and we gonna talk about that next episode about titles of friendship.
Yeah.
But if it is your ace, somebody you call sis, somebody that might have shared some undergarments, a t-shirt,
an earring back.
Right.
Not the sacred earring back.
No, but like I done been out. I went to a women's college. I done been amongst a whole bunch of women. If I done went out with you one time to your birthday and ate a slice of cake and ain't seen you since, your dude is not off limits. Like, it really makes no sense. It's not enough people in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Like,
definitely not Atlanta.
That's what I'm saying.
I can't date him because I went to your birthday one time and ate cake. Like,
that's what I mean. It has to be. You have to have like concrete proof, concrete relationships, events. It has to be something solid there for you to just be like, oh, that's my friend. Oh, I'm wrong for dating this person. Like, I feel like Portia wouldn't date him if that was her friend. I really, that's just how I feel. And I could be, being biased because Portia's my girl, but I do feel like I do feel like she wouldn't date somebody who would make her look bad. She's had enough drama on the show. Like she's had enough, going on that was actually her fault. Then now this, which is, it could go one way or the other, just depending on how people personally feel.
Agreed.
But for me, though, it really was going to boundaries. It's the people that, like, you share the same baby daddy. You got Irish twins and ghetto triplets. Like, and you talking about, like, they was giving her so much flack, talking about don't be a Portia. I'm like, you are a Portia because you knew this man had a girlfriend and then you had a baby thinking he gonna leave this girl. Like, it's like the hypocrisy. I couldn't deal with it. I really couldn't deal with the hypocrisy.
And that's what I put up to. I said, I'm laughing at the people with questionable morals who have nerve to have a judgment about Portia. I was like, some of y'all, I actually know your business. And some of y'all I don't, but y'all put your business online. So it's easy to see that y'all got kids. You a man and you got kids born in the same year. And that's your homeboy. Oh, okay. Or somebody else, you willingly cheating with this man, you the other woman, and you okay with it, but you got the nerve to talk about Portia? Like, shut your ass up.
Audacity.
But thank you all for tuning in for this show. But Nicole, set them up for the next one.
Thanks, government.
Oh, damn.
Right. So, next episode, we're going to be talking about ships. So, friendships, companionships, situationships, entanglements. We're going to sprinkle that in. We're going to have all different perspectives, but we really gonna deep dive into one titles, naming health, like navigating through healthy relationships. We just gonna touch on it all. So tune in and turn up.